Confidence Staveley is a force to be reckoned with. She is not only a keynote speaker, an author, a board member, she's also the founder of the CyberSafe Foundation and a founder of her own company, Merkle Fence, which works to offer talent as a service, basically. Confidence has grown so many great ideas and brought them all to fruition in a short number of years that you can't help but listen to what it is that she's done and walk away from it feeling inspired. Confidence, it is wonderful to have you on this. I love the new hairdo. It's been a while since we've seen each other in person. And just, I love to give people a little bit of context as to how I've come across people, because sometimes I just randomly seek them out. But you and I met at the Cybersecurity Woman of the World, and we talked a good bit to and fro beforehand, but it's the first time we met in person, and you won, you little legend. Actually, I think one of my favorite moments of that was the guy that you were with, I don't know if it was your partner or someone you work with, was doing such a job of following you when you went up with to get your award, of videoing it, and it just the pride was just unreal from everyone in the room, like, and I can never stop saying well done. But that's how I met you, so it's wonderful to speak with you.
Thank you.
Let's start with your background, because you're it's easy to say you're an inspirational person. Even watching any snippets of the videos that you put up on your LinkedIn and across all of your profiles would tell you that, but everybody's got to start somewhere. So for you, where did that journey start? Where did the inspiration come from?
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And it's so lovely to finally be having this conversation with you. As regards my journey, for me, it was just a chunk of happenstance, like things leading to other things, in a way that led me here. So the first key thing was I grew up in an African home. Both my parents are Nigerian, and if there's anything to be said about Nigerian parents, they're very ambitious on their children's behalf. Like your child is your child is a boy, he likes the sciences. They just tell you, oh, you're going to be an engineer, and they start selling it to you as early as age 5. Cool. Those careers that are successful, and they've seen models of success for. If you're a girl and you took so much and you like the art, you're going to definitely be a lawyer. And if a girl like me who like the sciences, you're going to be a medical doctor. So you can guess where I fell into in all of that. I was the medical doctor that my parents vicariously lived the dream through me for so long that I actually had bought it as though it was mine. And so just when I finished high school, going into college, my parents asked me to take a gap year. Now, in retrospect, I think they were trying to gather their act together financially to be able to put me through higher education, because no parent tells you to take that gap year when it's not financial constraint. No. So I took the gap year, but I want to make sure that I was engaged, and doing something with my life in that time. So they sent me off to go to what they call a computer school. So it's like a tech center where you get to learn how to use computers. Mm-hmm. It was the first time ever I had touched a computer in my life. I learned how to use one. You learned how to use basic offices like Microsoft Word and the rest for the first time. But then I went past that. I started learning how to program. And girl, if I say that I came alive when I was doing all of that, it would be an understatement. Like, I will forget that I've not had lunch. And then if I got there too early, I'll forget that I've not had breakfast, because I would just get lost in that world and I would just be going at it. I learned how to code in C, Sharp, Java. I was having a blast. And just, at the cap of that 1 year gap, I had now done the examination required. I had passed it. The school had offered me an admission to do medicine, and this admission letter had come. And I looked at myself. I was like, no, this was my parents' dream. Yeah. I think that here is where I want to be, in this world of technology. And to give you a bit of some background, my parents had never been to college. So none of them have graduated with a bachelor. So it was their dream to have all their children be graduates, university graduates. Yeah. Right. So now, of course, not just any graduate, a graduate that they can be sure has prospects of doing so well in their lives that they become the insurance policy, you know, for
Yes,
their
absolutely.
passion, you know,
Smart.
you know, you know what's to do. And so now me coming to say I didn't want to be a medical doctor anymore. I just wanted to make sure I was managing the heartbreak as well as I could.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a laptop at that time of my own, but I needed to make a presentation to my parents why I should drop this admission to do medicine and then go ahead to do tech. So I bought cardboard papers and made my slides out of cardboard paper. So yes, so I would write the points. I would write the points on one, write the word, and then I numbered them. So
Yeah.
during my presentation, I would lift them up as little placards, make my point, drop them like that. And my parents didn't understand half of what I was saying in my presentation, but they understood one thing that I keep saying. I've acknowledged over the years, is the language of passion. Passion is a language. It can be seen. It can be felt.
Yeah.
They could see it in my eyes. They could see how my eyes lit up, how happy I was. And there's something my mom always said. She always said to me that you cannot outperform a passionate person.
Mm.
So it was just on the back of that I was able to pitch to them that I was very passionate about technology. This was the present and this was going to be the future, and I was going to build a fantastic career. So to cut the long story short, my parents made the brave decision that I don't know if I'm as brave as them with my own children, if I and said, you know what, this thing you want to do, go ahead and do it. So I went on to do an advanced diploma in software engineering. Thankfully, got a scholarship to do an IIT and Business Information Systems degree in university, in schools that they would never have been able to afford. But thankfully, I was lucky enough to get scholarships too. And then I did a master's in IT management. So it was during my master's that I took an elective called cryptography. What a baptism of fire. That was the entry point
Sure.
into information security. So I know it's a long winding story where you can see how things led to things. And then
Yeah.
my cryptography lecturer at the time became my first mentor in cybersecurity. He was the guy who sort of pointed me in the right directions to get the self-learning I needed and just to encourage me towards that path. So that was basically my story. Got hands-on experience after that, and it's just been a jolly beautiful ride since then, of course with its own share of challenges.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And the passion is there. Like there's no denying it, and it's still there. So many people will get into something and then it'll fizzle out after a while. But I know as a parent, I've seen it. One of my boys in particular has a passion, and he was trying to make a sensible decision about where to go to college. And I kept kind of trying to nudge him in this direction until the penny dropped, and you can just see this, like I say, like the light. I'm like, that's what you should be doing. Never mind the rest of it. You'll always be a success in the thing if you're going to be passionate about it, and it seems so easy when you figure it out, and then you moved on to create the CyberGirls Initiative. So where did you make the big jump there from being like an individual doing tech things, and often on the development side of software development you're often very isolated, you're not at the forefront of things, but to go out and do the CyberGirls Initiative, where did that come from?
So my career progressed in cybersecurity. I got my first leadership role to be a country manager for a cybersecurity consulting firm in my country. So I started doing a couple more media rounds, being in decision-making rooms, the sort of things that you would see. But increasingly, I was in those rooms as the only woman, or one of very few women. Now, the background I've laid out to you, clearly I've always been in technology, right?
Yeah.
From get go. So I came through a very traditional route. But up until this point where I started getting leadership roles, I didn't think I was necessarily aware that I was a minority. So it became worse off when I got into some sort of meat management role, and then began to see how different I was and how maybe I would attack problems differently. And for me, I also had another experience. My mother also became a victim of cybercrime around that time.
No.
Yes. So I looked at it and I was like, oh, the work I've been doing has been enterprise facing the entire time. right? I wanted to be able to do something that would plug the gap between what the government was doing. When I mean government, I don't mean just the government of my country, but like governments all over the world were doing, and
Right.
then what businesses were doing, like private entities were doing. There was that gap in between that needed to be filled, both in awareness and the other things that I saw were lagging. Were all lagging behind on. And so for me, I created CyberSafe Foundation to then close that gap. So our first program was basically around creating mass cybersecurity awareness, because I clearly saw how people got technology, but like buying a car, they bought the car but didn't know where the brakes were. So
Yeah.
I wanted to show them where those brakes were, how they needed to maintain that car, how they needed to make sure that they had a seatbelt on, to ensure that they're safe while using that beautiful car. So for us, that's what we started off doing. But then clearly, more and more, I began to see why I was most likely the only woman in those rooms. And so I set out to close the gap. And the stats didn't help either. I stumbled on this stat that I'm now wearing on my t-shirt. It was from the World Bank. So they said that in Africa, although women make up 50% of the population, that we only make up 9% of the cybersecurity workforce.
9. Wow.
9%.
And I've actually seen you wear that t-shirt. I've seen you post it on your LinkedIn and I love it.
It's crazy. And it's not even that bad if you look at it as a pie chart. If you look at it as in a chain of numbers. So for example, if I put it this way, that if you met 10 cybersecurity professionals on the African continent working, only one of them out of the 10 will be a woman. That's what
Mm.
it means. So it's a crazy stat, and for me it was so mind-boggling that I didn't want to sit back and complain about it, right?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to make sure that I do something for it. And when I asked employers, why don't you have women in your teams? They simply said they didn't have women that were skilled to give opportunities for those roles. I said, okay, it's fine. No woman wants to be hired just because they're a woman, right? We want
Yeah.
to be hired because we are seen to be good enough for the job, and the best for the job, not even good enough, right? And
Yeah.
so how do we get there? It's in investing in skilling these women up and to ensure that they have the skills so they're able to compete favorably with their male counterparts for the opportunities down ground. So for me, that was where CyberGirls came off, ensuring that we tip the scale on that stat that I saw, what that was so infuriating, that pushed me into taking action, but ensuring also that the girls that we train get the skills and are able to favorably compete. And I found out so much that it's not even just about the skills, it's also about the confidence. People
Yeah.
say believe, but it was just the fact that I saw that even when women had the skills, a woman will always say, I mean, it's crazy. I'm sure you've seen this a lot of times, Jennifer. I would look at 10 CVs of guys and look at 10 CVs of ladies with the same training.
Yeah.
Words like foundational, fundamental cybersecurity skills. I mean, what guys will present it that way, right?
Yeah.
They will say, I learned how to use these technologies. I learned how to. Women will say foundational, enthusiast. They will use the words that take away from them,
Yeah.
and so for me, it was about ensuring that I have women present themselves in the fullness and grandness of the talent that they are. And that has been my work through the CyberGirls Fellowship. We've been able to grow from delivering that training to just a few girls in Nigeria alone. We scaled it to 7 countries within Africa, then scaled it to 21. We're currently at 27. And it's been a
Cool.
beautiful journey, just seeing how these girls are able to become better versions of themselves. Aside protecting the enterprises, they're able to live and lead better lives for themselves and their families and their communities. It's just mind blowing.
It's amazing the impact that you can have. And like you said, the confidence, ironically, that also being your name seems very appropriate. But I've come across it as well. Like I've been mentoring, and through because of COVID, got to mentor people all over the world. And I noticed like the significant difference, obviously, between women and men, but even culturally in different countries, there's different expectations, or, not less fight. There's the intelligence is there and the capability is there, but the fear levels are higher and lower in different countries as well. And it's lovely to see you tackle that head on.
Absolutely. And just to add on to that, I think that in many cultures that are heavily patriarchal, we've socialized girls to be more agreeable,
Yeah.
more likable, less I don't want to use the word aggressive, but less forthcoming,
Yeah.
very now the word demure is used maybe in the wrong way, but I use it in that more demure. Like
Yeah.
you shouldn't, be so strong. The softness has to come into the workplace. Respect means different for women. If you're very tough, if you are asserting yourself, you're too tough. The B word is used,
Yeah.
all of that. But those are attributes that men succeed with in the
Yeah.
workplace. But women are required to not have those attributes yet, be able to somehow succeed. So it's very interesting dynamics, and I've seen that play out in very casual settings. And I use this example. I don't know if we're going to go past the time of our chat, but you can definitely cut this out if you want. I use this example. I have two kids come over to my house. They are sort of like relatives, or like family friends. They usually
Yeah.
come over for every single holiday they have. The older one is a girl, right? She is just preteen at the time this thing happens, right?
Mm.
And then her brother is 3 years younger than her, right?
Yeah.
So we go to the supermarket and we're shopping, and we're done shopping. Everyone has helped me with my groceries, and I say to them, okay, to reward you, Anti Confidence is going to let you all go into the aisles and pick a drink, any drink of your choice. That was the commandment I gave them, right? Go and pick any drink of your choice. And so they run down the aisle of the supermarket and both come back with a drink. So the two kids, the boy comes back with a big juice, right? The
Yeah.
biggest pack you could find. And the girl comes back with the small pack.
Yeah.
And
That
then,
sums it up, doesn't it?
yes, we're like, you got the big one. And he's like, yes, I did. Anti Confidence didn't say what size of juice we could get.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and I'm like, yes, I didn't say what size of juice you should get. So he got the big pack and you got the small one. And in that moment, my partner, sort of said, oh, she's been a good girl. And that's why she got the small one. She's been conservative. So she got, and then, oh, it hit me in that moment that a definition of a good girl is a girl who goes small. And I
Yeah.
immediately corrected it them. Like, that is this, what happened now is exactly what this girl will grow into the workplace doing. So I
Yeah.
sent them back into the aisle. I said to the girl, you can go ahead and get whatever size of drink you want to get. And she goes and get the same size. She gets the same size as her brother. And in that moment, I could clearly see why
Mhm.
a lot of those issues were happening. Why girls like that, as smart as she would go into the workplace, it would affect how she ask what how much she asked for a salary, for example. She'll be conservative around what she's asking for in a raise, because all her life she's been socialized that what a good girl means is ask for little, barely ask even.
Yeah. And that's such a great visual. It's such a simple story, but oh my gosh, there's no denying it with that story. Like no denying it whatsoever. So then, like you said, you were the only woman when you started out first in the industry, and prior to doing something like setting up the getting involved with all of the girls and equalizing things, shall we say, how did you find it in that male dominated industry? Like, was there specific challenges that you faced yourself beyond, like you talked about the attitude and such, but was there anything else that you came across?
I think there were also nuances that I think I didn't necessarily pick them up, most
Mm.
of them, but later on I began to. For example, I was asked in interviews. I mean, it's crazy to think about it now, but I was asked when I was going to get married. Now you know why they were asking me that. Of course, they want to know when I would want to have children and how soon
Yeah.
that was going to be, and all of that. So there were those things. There were things that I look back at now, and people got disappointed seeing sometimes that a woman was sent in. People would call me and would miss the emails thinking I was a man. I would be disappointed when we come on video and it's a woman addressing them and taking their technical requirements. There were those sort of things. Like, I was not synonymous with competence. It just wasn't. I had to prove that I was competent, but I also like to flip that coin a bit.
Yeah.
The truth is, because I was always underestimated, I always overperformed. The bar was always set so low that even if I just skipped, I would go over the rope. Um,
True.
so that was sort of like, you know, um, a beautiful thing in its way. I mean, I'm a positive person, so I like to sit on the positive side of things. It also
Same.
it also meant that um I I got the satisfaction of seeing those people, their jaw drops, their jaw drop, and the
Oh,
satisfaction,
yeah.
whatever that would look like, and the surprise. I loved it, So I try to veer away from the fact that, okay, these people do not expect me to, maybe are disappointed, and whatever disrespect to come out of that in the tone, as long as it wasn't very uncivil and in my face, I would take it.
Mm.
But if it was, I had one time it was that way, and I politely and very strongly addressed it, because that's something I always tell women. You don't want to always, you don't always want to be the fighty person, but
Yeah.
make sure that you're so skilled at making your point that the people who try to disrespect you feel foolish afterwards. And
Cool.
yes, and somehow I've perfected the act of doing that. I will ask certain questions. So um you would give yourselves those and you give yourself those answers in a way that you look back at yourself and like, oh, that was out of place to do. So I think
Yeah.
perfecting the way of standing up for yourself, in a way that's elegant and but is strong, and your point is very well put across, in a way that respects you as a person, and make sure that you're remembered in a firm, but
Yeah.
exactly how you want to be remembered, in a good way.
That's definitely something we don't get enough coaching in, I don't think, anywhere in the world. Especially if, like, I know my generation was very much taught to be good girls and compliant, and so it's a new experience for me learning to be much more, not combative, but assertive or confident when it comes to holding my own. And that's
Mhm.
difficult to do from the very beginning. Like, I always had to do it and pretend in my head that somebody, like, my used to always say that my sister was watching. So if somebody was giving out to me or giving me grief or giving me a hard time, I would think, would my sister allow me to take that? Would it be acceptable for somebody to speak to me like that in front of my sister? And if it wasn't, then I would make myself
Mhm.
using that in the beginning till I got
Mhm.
confident enough to do it for myself. But I know definitely it's an Irish thing where we'll do everything we can to avoid having an argument with somebody. So it's not a natural disposition of ours, but it's so much when you get on the other side of it and you do put somebody back in their place
Mhm.
professionally or, not disrespectfully, do it like you say, then it's
Mhm.
quite an empowered feeling. I remember thinking that was way easier than I thought. Why have I not been doing
Absolutely.
that?
Absolutely. It's very empowering. And then, the trick around it, once you start doing it and doing it well, you want to do it more. Like you I would say you feel bolder to do it more.
Yeah.
That's what I tell the girls that sometimes come to me with things like that. And it just takes that one time usually to make sure. And the beautiful thing about putting people in their place when they're disrespectful is that the word goes around
Yes. Very fast. I
very
love
much.
it. I love it. But then that actually leads me then into, if there's a need for people to learn those kind of things, and they're not technical, they're soft skills things. Like, I'm a big advocate for mentorship, and I know that you are too. You've been mentored in your own career, and I presume you've mentored other people. I'd be surprised if you hadn't. Like,
Mhm.
how has that shaped your journey? I love people to hear how mentorship has impacted people, because everybody should have a mentor. How has it impacted you?
There's a very simple phrase that I would use to describe its impact. It's enabled me to stand on the shoulder of giants.
Mm.
Um, so what standing on their shoulders means for me is that I somewhat have a roadmap, and I'm able to juxtapose my roadmap on theirs in the way that suits me,
Hmm.
in the way that lets me see um, the speed bumps on that path, in a way that lets me see the points that I can that navigation challenges would occur, and in a way that helps me resolve issues quicker.
Yeah.
So I think that for me that has been the major thing around mentorship. And the way I experienced mentorship wasn't a hand holding thing. It was a thing of um these are the things that I see that are in you, and sometimes I couldn't see that for myself. right?
Yeah.
And then these are the opportunities, the variety of opportunities that are available to you. Find which one works for you. So it sort of like helped me, what I say, with the different parts. And
Mhm.
then, but still allowed me, what I'm trying to say in essence, it allowed me the choice with direction.
Yeah.
I think that's the very strong part of it, the choice of direction. Because I don't subscribe to mentorship where you're told what to do 100%
Mm.
of the time. There should be an element of adventure where people find their path or find themselves. There should then be some sort of ability to see the what they call it, the blind spots. Yes, that's what I was trying to say. The blind spots in that journey and how to navigate them very quickly. So that is what I've been able to enjoy, the ability to be able to see what those options are, be able to make my pathway, be able to get expert advice on how to overcome challenges that I was going to meet on my path. And when I saw some, I experienced some that I wasn't necessarily prompted by my mentor on, I could go to someone that had more experience and they walk me through how to get around it. So I believe that mentorship is something that everyone should have. However, not everyone has it. And this
Mhm.
is also where I say, unfortunately, in cyber is one of the key things. And I'm going to make 2 points here. The first point is, I think that it's really for newcomers into the industry. There is a rush for very popular people,
Yeah.
and we sort of equate popularity to competence. Yes,
Mm.
a lot of popular people are competent, right? But it's not synonymous to it. It doesn't mean that if you don't have thousands of followers or 1,000 followers, that person isn't competent. No, that isn't the case. So for me, for example, I get like 3 mentorship requests every day. So that means in a year, I guess at least 1,000. There is no way I can scratch the surface on that number,
Yeah.
But there are people who don't get those requests that are equally competent, or even better, more experienced than I am, and are willing and open to mentor. So
Yeah.
this is one way I'm telling people coming into the industry: please don't look for the most popular person or anything. Those people can still be your role models, because the truth is they are overburdened. Like I've just basically shared with you, they're overburdened with people just asking for mentorship. But there are people who, just checking them out, are open to sharing their experiences and are very experienced as well. The second key thing is, if you do not find a mentor, um, I would say that there's one kind of mentorship that people are always also missing: peer mentorship.
Yeah.
People that are mentoring you must not be ahead of you. There are things that your peers are learning and are better at, that it can help you out with, that you can jointly attack problems in a way that is collaborative and just helps you grow, that even strengthens and motivates you in the very low times. So people don't look at peer mentorship as a key thing, but I'd
It's true.
highly recommend it, especially in community settings. And then another key thing is, if you're not able to get a mentor, you can also have a role model that you watch, that sort of mirrors where you're going to. You can sort of watch them from their social media posts, from listening to their talks, going on their YouTube channels, and basically learn from them. Right? There are ways around that, combining that with peer mentorship, that just helps. Unfortunately, we don't have enough mentors in our industry, but these are some ways that you can get around with the challenge.
There's not even sort of enough mentors. But that peer mentorship thing is, I hadn't really thought about it, but I've actually probably learned some of the most useful things in my career from my peers. And
Absolutely.
especially when you go to the peers that they're the same level, but they're in different teams, like from that kind of cross collaboration effort, learning what happens in all those other teams in a company, it certainly helps you to do your job, I think, a little bit better as well from there. So, specific to Africa, what are your thoughts then on the cybersecurity state there at the moment? Or do you see that there's need for improvement in certain areas?
Yes, so we used to pay quite a lot of lip service. We still do, to cybersecurity. Cybersecurity, like many parts of the world, is a nice to have till date, But in Africa, it's even worse. It's worse also because we're innovating, I dare say, more than most parts of the world. Like a lot of especially in the financial services space, like our financial services sector is so advanced. I mean, it took me leaving Nigeria to realize that the fact that I could transfer monies and it gets to you in few minutes,
Yeah.
or few seconds, not even minutes, in few seconds, was
Yeah.
quite a big thing. I got to say the UK when I was studying. I was like, oh, people have to wait for money. Like
It
it's
could be a
something that
week, like, yeah.
it's something I can relate with because we're so advanced, in terms of that side of technology. We, even if you don't have a smartphone, a feature phone, can just use USD and you're transferring money and it's getting there in seconds. If you go
Yeah.
to Kenya, for example, if you were to pay a taxi, people don't use cash to buy food or bananas from the roadside vendor. Literally, the woman who doesn't even have a bank account can receive e-payments in seconds. I mean, in 2 or 1 second. You
Yeah.
know, it's that fast and it's that ubiquitous. But then we're not embracing securing that technology as much as we should. Now,
Yeah.
before now, we're enjoying the luxury of Europe and America is getting all of the attention from the cyber criminals. But now the cyber criminals are saying that, okay, we have some really easy, low hanging fruits on these continents. How about
Yeah.
we eat those fruits? So they're having a field day on the African continent, and the more enterprises are beaten, they become twice shy, and it's sort of like improving. There are a lot of companies now with cybersecurity teams or a cybersecurity personnel or someone in IT that is sort of also sorry, excuse me. There's also sort of also doubling as a cybersecurity resource and all of those sort of things. So we're seeing that take up quite a lot.
Yeah.
But another part of it I really want to highlight is that there is a high interest in technology, in cybersecurity talent development. There's a very high uptake.
Good.
People want to be cybersecurity professionals in their droves. And I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. By 2030, 1 in every 4 people on in the world will be of African descent.
Wow.
So the population is growing so much. We have a very young population. More than half, I think, about 70% of our population is below 30. So such a young population. So I think that the more the rest of the world is aging and then we are only just emerging, I believe that very strongly that Africa will become the cyber talent powerhouse of the world in a few years, because the number of people coming up, gaining cybersecurity skills, looking for opportunities within the continent, outside of the continent, and they're tapped also to just go to other continents and work. And like
Yeah.
the way I like to describe cyber talent is that it's energy, and talent generally is energy. It cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed into one shape or one form or the other. So we would just be those talents that move around continents within our continent, or other continents, just really shaping cybersecurity and having those boots on the ground, doing the work and ensuring that our enterprises and people are secure. So that's what I see.
I love it. And yeah, I've seen, as somebody who has worked with, I've worked with a lot of different industries all over the world on the cybersecurity side. And yes, the talent there is unreal. And like you say, I couldn't get over the speed too, even when I was there visiting. It just blew my mind. Like, it's so slow. It's still so slow over here. And we still have some means of instant transaction, but not really from an old school bank account. It still could take a couple of days to get through. That's just crazy to me in this day and age. Everything else is instant. I have one more question for you before I'll set you free for your evening. But it is really just around last words as such. Is there any piece of advice that you might give to any young women that might be listening to this and looking to pursue that career in cybersecurity, or even just to young women in general? It might not be cybersecurity specific. What would you say to them?
First, I want to say that if you put your mind to anything, you can achieve it, So go for it, girl, is what I would say, whatever that is. But if that is cybersecurity, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything I'm going to say going forward. Literally, I'm going to give you the hard stuff, right? If you're one who enjoys solving problems, like your own treadmill of life is solving problems and you get your satisfaction from it, you will absolutely love it here. The second key thing is, if you're one person who loves to learn, like learning is fun for you, you want to keep learning, you like the adventure of somewhat new and novel every other time, something that is always coming up and you needing to catch on with that, cybersecurity is a great space to be. If you're neither of these two things, this is not the place for you. Yes, because learning, relearning, and unlearning is a major thing that will keep happening. The standards change. What was good practice yesterday could become bad practice today, and you have to learn what that is and apply it. Every day of your life, you'll be solving different kinds of problems. So if that gives you fulfillment, then yes, there is definitely good space for you, regardless of where you want to be. If you want to be the technical person, trust me, you have everything in you. Your brain is wired to do hard things as well. And there's also hard in doing the side of things in cybersecurity that isn't technical. The world also needs you because you're solving big problems there, and there's space for you. Just come in and explore, have a blast, and have fun.
I love it. Thank you so much. You make me want to go out and just change the world now. I'm all energized and ready to go. Thank you so much, Confidence. It's been fantastic.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.